Grappers, episode 30, where this edition we are going to be doing the long awaited review of Project House in Leeds in Yorkshire, where North Wrestling LDS 64 took place for Everything Is All Caps. And happened on the same weekend that saw For the Love of Wrestling in Trafford, not Manchester. I refuse to claim that as Manchester, where we saw arguably the best match of the year to date. A lot of you will know what match that is because you have good taste, hopefully. But to discuss that show, we are joined by someone making their official debut on BraddersGraps, though really it is their second appearance. That having been the case, we recorded a show, if you can cast your minds back to October time, when North did their previous show, and due to the audio being so badly screwed up that it will never make the airwaves, sadly, this is the real debut. So, to put it one way, imagine someone scoring a hat trick and then the game gets rained off and it never existed. Which, like a lot of my episodes so far. But as I say, making his official debut on BraddersGraps, the correspondent for the Northeast, as I'm making him, from All Things North podcast, we welcome Harry to the podcast. Hello!
Hello. It's good to be officially not back, but back.
Yeah, that's the best way to look at things, really, I think. We'll just say it was a really bad show and we did not want to put it out.
That's true.
Even
there was so much just horrible things that we said it can never air.
Yeah. Even though I've gone on record as saying it was one of the best shows we ever did. Yeah. And just no one will ever hear it. Despite all the help I had. But hey ho. What do you know? We were originally going to be a free trio on this podcast, as I was going to have my good friend and boss from the Penciled In podcasting, Nikki, but schedules have not allowed that to happen. So I know you'll be watching, Nikki, so hello. I know you won't be watching or listening. You have better things to do with your time. Whereas why I don't. So we will get onto this show because we have been talking for quite a while before we've recorded this. We should now have our feet up and be doing whatever we want. But no, we've had a good old chin wag to catch up. But you know, that's what happens. So, to give it a bit of a funny bones reference, on a cold night in Leeds, down a cold, dark street, in a dark venue, I was on that occasion while we parked up because it was absolutely fucking miserable traveling over. Anyone that travels to these lead shows, especially from like the northwest side, I don't know if it's the same coming from up north, which again we had this discussion of it being told you're southern when you're in the northwest and someone's hired does not sound very right. But the bad weather that always seems to attract coming to Leeds and traffic problems seem to just go hand in hand. I think if Nikki was here, she'd probably tell you it's always the same. Just crossing the M62 or travel as it is. But despite the cold and the freezing conditions, we had the warmth of wrestling. Yeah. As we all return back to Project House for the third installment that North have brought us. I'll ask it, what do you make of Project House, actually?
Well, it's a strange venue because, for one, it just looks like you would never see a wrestling show in there in a million years. Two, you get pretty much frisked at the door from head to toe if you've got anything on you. Like, I know my girlfriend, last time we went, she wasn't allowed to take like her umbrella in or certain makeup stuff. I wasn't allowed to take like a can of deodorant that I had. And I remember coming back out and it was raining and they pretty much just left everything in the rain, which was really annoying. There's a unisex toilet, which I still find kind of bizarre. And then, I don't know, I mean, it was warmer this time than it was last time, but it wasn't very warm.
Yeah. It was
It
warmish.
was weird. It was warmish.
Yeah.
I remember Liam Slater was on the Patreon podcast for North, and he was like, I much prefer this because it's so much warmer than Anarchy. And I was like,
That's the
Anarchy is
Yorkshireman
like,
coming out in him.
yeah. I was like, when Newcastle is cold, but the Anarchy is such like a tight venue, and there's a lot of people packed in, so it warms the place up.
Yeah.
Whereas Project House is quite open. Like, there's a big garage door it's pretty much open the entire show for people to come in and out. So, like, it can get quite cold in there.
Yeah.
But thankfully, compared to the last show, which was on a Friday night and was a bit up and down in terms of the show, this was a lot better crowd, which made for a better just overall atmosphere, thank God, which is what I think Bowers and the rest of the people at North were praying for, because it seemed like whether they came back to Leeds was kind of resting on this show. And I mean, as we'll talk about, it thank God delivered in terms of wrestling and the atmosphere as well.
Because the first show was a massive success.
Yeah.
And it was also in the summer. People got a suntan. I know someone that nearly got a heat stroke that went. I shouldn't laugh, but I just found that funny. The second show, I think because it was on a Sunday this time,
that's right, yeah.
It didn't help because when you have it on a Friday or a Saturday, you can have the main North faithful can travel down and they've got a whole kind of like weekend. They don't have to worry about like late trains or whatever. So having it on a Sunday, I think that put a lot of people off, which told with the attendance as well, because it was not a big crowd on that occasion. Having it on a Friday night did do a lot better. It will be interesting to see what the Saturday crowd is going to be like, I feel, for the next show, which we will touch upon later on the podcast. The venue, it's a bit of a quirky one. It doesn't feel like an actual like wrestling venue when you look at it. But it has there's not enough venues that have a bit of a quirkiness to them. A lot of them are just like sports halls or church halls. And it's just like we'll just put a ring in it, which is pretty much what a lot of wrestlers will do. They'll go to venues and they'll go, you could stick a ring in here. Which
Yeah,
could be how that came about in Leeds. Someone
it's
went
very
one
possible.
day
Yeah,
and just went, yeah, you could fit a couple hundred in here. Which I'm not complaining about. It saves me a lot of money compared to booking at a certain well-known hotel chain up in Newcastle that you can find anywhere. That Lenny Henry might be trying to sell you a bed for the night. Not that I'm saying he's hard on his luck and he now sells beds, but you know the chain I'm on about. But we will touch on the pre-show. So I have written a lot of notes for this show, but I've condensed them down because I had at one point 14 pages until I realized I had the font on 16 and then put it down to 11, and we are a lot less. We are half that. But yes, the pre-show was that of Ian Skinner, the coldest guy in the room, cool guy with lots of friends. Ian, if you're watching this, hello. He took on Billy O'Keefe, someone I'm not fully, I don't fully know, but I know he works at True Grit Wrestling, and quite a few people have said good things about him. I had a good chat with him actually after the show. Really good guy. So the match itself, though, as I repeat what I've just said, the coldest guy in the room, loads of friends, tries many underhanded things. After knocking O'Keefe down to the mat with a shoulder block, attempts to spit on his opponent, but O'Keefe moves out the way, only for Ian to then hit the mat himself and falling right where he spat. Nice little comedy spot there, I thought. Skinner then removes the turnbuckle pad, using his necklace as a weapon, with Ref Katie having so much trouble trying to keep Skinner in line in this contest. Skinner then shoves her into the ropes. This was when Keith tried to do I don't know if he was trying to do a springboard move, because we never saw what he was intending to do. But obviously Skinner pushing Katie, causing O'Keefe to fall. Wasn't the nicest fall from the ropes, because he kind of collected the other rope on the way down, which is slightly gnarly. Skinner then goes to use the necklace again, but we see him and Katie having a little tug of war over it. Katie, again, much like a couple of times in this show, seems to take more bumps than quite a lot of the wrestlers on this show. This sees O'Keefe hitting a leaping springboard forearm to pin Ian Skinner. After the match, Ian pushes Katie and claims that she cost him the match. Katie, who is not one bit the feistiest or kind of the angriest person, but dear God, she hit one of the best stunners I've seen for a long time on Skinner. Skinner sells the stunner better than the Rawk, and you can quote me on that. Ends up in one of the most awkward positions in the rope. Katie kind of just milks the applause, as she bloody well should, just to kind of like get the crowd all hyped up. What was your take on this contest, if you can remember that far back?
Well, I was gonna say I was on my way to the hotel. I was on my way. I just left the hotel, ready to go to the show, and my My girlfriend's getting ready. I'm thinking, we'll still be there. We'll plenty of time. I'd messaged Bowers on Instagram to be like, is there going to be a pre-show match? Just because if there is, I'll try and get there a bit early. If not, I'll go for the show start. As we were sort of waiting for our Uber, they put on their Instagram story about who's ready for a pre-show match, and I was like, God damn it! I knew this would happen. But we just got there, I think, as Skinner was making his entrance. But yeah, it was a pretty solid match, to be fair. I mean, it definitely got the crowd involved straight away, which I think was kind of the intention of having Skinner on this show, because that's what he's really, really good at.
Yeah.
I was the same. I'd never really heard of O'Keefe, but he definitely impressed me. I think that was my first time seeing him, so that was really good. And then obviously, I mean, Katie is reps all over the place. I was telling you before we started filming that I went to like Daisy Jenkins' charity show in Edinburgh, and she was reffing up there, and then she always refs at North at different shows in like the Northwest and things. So to see her get a nice little spot there, and like you say, to milk the stunner for everything that it was is what you want to see. But yeah, that was a great way to just kick things off.
Because it's the thing with Katie on this show, even Sandy Beach as well, they took their lumps on this show, but my God, they gave them back in a few times.
Yeah.
But two of the my favorite referees on the scene. But after we had the fun of the pre-show, we then started off with the Battle of the Initials, as I've called it, as MLD took on HMD. Man like DeReiss against Hard Man Dan. This, I'll ask you this before I go into like what happened. What were your pre-thoughts going into this match?
I think they've been building up a sort of story in North about HMD and how he's on a bit of a losing streak, and he's been trying to build himself up. He's trying to sort of give himself this false reassurance that, like, no, I'm going to win this time. Everything's fine. I'm not having a complete meltdown. I'm completely sane. Whereas, obviously, DeReiss, I mean, he doesn't really have much story direction in North at the moment, but you sort of don't need one because he's man like DeReiss. So he shows up and does his thing, and like everyone's involved.
DeReiss
Obviously,
is DeReiss
I was
is
just going to say what
really
I didn't know was that he had another booking on the same day. I assumed he'd opened the show to just get the crowd involved because of the fact that the last show was a bit, the atmosphere definitely at the start of the show was a bit down. So I assumed, all right, get DeReiss out first. He gets the crowd up, but clearly there was another reason that he'd started the show.
Yeah. That other reason being that he was on Progress at the Beck Arena, which I'll very quickly touch on this, as I think I did before. The Beck Arena, that is the Bowlers Exhibition Centre. If it's called the Exhibition Centre, you do not need to call yourself an arena. You are a centre. Just stay at BEC. Drop the arena. That's my little TED talk. Thank you for coming. But yeah, I went into this thinking, because I've seen Hardman Dan a couple of times. One, I saw him at Bridge Pro in a tag team. I think it was with Kemper. I can't remember who they were facing off the top of my head. And we didn't really see a lot of him. So I couldn't really make like a judgment on him. Then I saw him at Thunderstruck, and my opinion went up a lot higher because he did a lot more.
Yeah.
And then I saw him taking on DeReiss, and I thought, this kind of feels like it's just almost feel like it's been put together a bit, because Hardman Dan, I know, kind of helps at PPW, but then again, at this point, anyone who isn't from Yorkshire that isn't at PPW, what you do?
It's true. It
yeah,
leans NXT very much.
yes. But there's been a few people I've seen that have been like down on Dan, that they don't think he's that good. I personally think he's good. I think the kind of like his character at times can get slightly lost, because I think he's still been like working, like what really am I? What's the character? What am I doing? And it's progressed every single time I've seen him. Like
Yeah.
you said, this was him almost thinking, right, I need to win this. I have to win this. I'm going to give everything I can. I've lost a couple of matches. I don't want to be like a loser, whatever. So we came into this matchup, and DeReiss being the shy, reserved type he is, saw him making new friends with a group of lads that were sat near the stage area, bringing a lot of energy. There was a point where I'm thinking, with these like trainees that had like come down to like help out, and I think it became very quickly, no, they were just here for a good time. To which I think DeReiss at times forgot he was supposed to be wrestling, and also had to dash off later on. But was enjoying himself far too much. That I genuinely think at one point he thought, oh crap, I'm meant to be wrestling. But we finally get him in the ring. And we had both men having near falls. Hardman Dan gains control, then kind of pokes the bear by ripping the do-rag off DeReiss, which is the equivalent of pulling on Superman's cape, effectively. DeReiss fires back. We then have one of the all-time chants this year, where a section started chanting, "You're just a shit Rob Beckett," towards Hardman Dan. And the more you looked at him and the chant, you thought, I can say that. And I think even Dan had to he was corpsing at one point and had to cover his face. And DeReiss will laugh at anything, to be fair. You don't know if he's ever corpsing or just himself. And for those outside of the UK who don't know who Rob Beckett is, it is in reference to a British comedian. So we then have Hardman Dan, in my words, getting chopped the fuck in this match, whose chest looks like a robin by the end of it. DeReiss then hits a back-to-back German suplex, followed by a blockbuster off Brett's rope. Dan replies with a knee to the face for a 2, before multiple pinfall attempts. And then we have a great back and forth with a matrix cutter from DeReiss, attempts a sharpshooter, but Hardman Dan rakes the eyes and then finds himself in a ankle lock submission hold, counters it, but will only see DeReiss land perfectly to put a crossface on him. He then gets to the ropes. Hardman Dan then hits a big spine buster, followed by a even bigger slam for a 2 count. And for the second match in a row, the rule breaker goes after the referee. Hardman Dan pushes Sandy Beach, who tries to compose herself. Nope, she shoves him, gets a 2 count, luckily for him. But DeReiss will pick up this win with a sharpshooter, of which he had threatened many times in the contest. A great opening match. One of the best opening matches you'll see anywhere in a time of 15 minutes and 17 seconds. After the match, it sees Hardman Dam putting his hand out to DeReiss, and the Lyrical Dragon just kicks the hand away, performs a kind of Michael Jackson grabbing the crotch and dancing away, much to the bemusement of Hardman Dan, as DeReiss returns to the boisterous lads for another rendition of Free From Desire and dancing away, almost having to be pulled away and told, you need to go now, DeReiss. your planet needs you. But yeah, that was a really fun contest. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I thought it was a great opener, and I thought it would be, because I mean, DeReiss can't really have a bad match. I mean, I'm quite surprised DeReiss isn't somewhere like NXT or AEW, and I don't think. I think we should probably enjoy it while it lasts, because I feel like within the next year or two he's probably going to be gone. And HMD, I think he's grown massively. I think over the last year. I mean, the last Leeds show, he had one of the better matches on that show. I think it was him and Joe Wade had a great match, and they had a series of matches in North that I thought were all really good. But yeah, that's just exactly what it should have been. I think DeReiss pointed out that HMD was wearing his pajamas to the ring, which was fantastic, because it's what everyone has been saying for the last couple of shows. Like, where is this weird sort of grey joggers ring gear come from? Uh, with like HMD just sort of, it looks like it's just sort of glued onto the side of his pants, but whatever floats your boat, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think HMD, I think he made like his Rev Pro debut not long ago. Like, he's been with Liam on a few Rev Pro shows and stuff, so he's definitely been getting more opportunities lately. But this is probably the biggest opportunity he's had in North for quite a while. And yeah, they seem to be continuing this story as well, where he's on a bit of a losing streak. And yeah, I mean, he did offer his hand to DeReiss, which DeReiss was like, nah, definitely not, because of the way you've acted over the last however long. So there's definitely some story there. But I mean, as sometimes happens with North, some people are on certain shows and then they're missing for a few and then they come back. So he wasn't on the last Anarchy show, so we didn't really get any update there. But hopefully, if he's on the Leeds show next week, that might continue. But yeah, he's been on a bit of a losing streak for a while now. I think he lost at the big weekender. I think he might have lost twice. One was to James Storm, which, I mean, it's James Storm, so what do you expect? And then at the start of the year, he was in a four-way with, I think it was Jet Marshall, George Hunter, who's really impressive as well. I mean, we'll talk about him in a bit. And who else was in that match? Daz Black, yeah. Daz Black's amazing as well. I feel like Daz Black's very underrated. But so, yeah, he lost that match and lost against DeReiss, which, again, I mean, it's DeReiss, so DeReiss loses very few matches on the Indies. But yeah,
I was gonna say, it is one of those times where even a loss can make you look better. And this is one of those times where, despite it being a loss, he came out of this even better than he was going into it.
Yeah, I'd like to see where they go with it, because it felt like he's had a different sort of reaction every time he's lost. Sort of with James Storm, he was just very angry and very bitter, and then after the four-way, it was kind of like he was just trying to sort of motivate himself to be like, no, this is definitely. He's like, this is my big chance now. I've got DeReiss. I'm gonna win. Everything's fine. And then he lost in a great match. I mean, it's hard to have a bad match with DeReiss. And then yeah, his reaction was sort of to offer the handshake, which I mean, we don't know what would have happened. I mean, he might
No.
have faked out, but it seemed sort of like he's just completely lost his confidence. That's the narrative they're going with. So we'll see. But as far as those group of lads go, I mean, they were all
They were
night long. They were absolutely mental in the best way possible.
Yeah.
Because I think after that first match, I thought this is either going to be really good or really bad. Because if they
Yeah.
get super hammered, and grab someone or do something or start a fight or something, I was like, this could end really bad. But thankfully, they just all night long they were like North's biggest supporters, which was really nice. And I think when North did their Patreon podcast, I'm sure they'd spoke to the lads after the show and asked them sort of, why they wanted to come along or if they were even wrestling fans. And I can't remember exactly off the top of my head what they'd said, but I think one of them was maybe a wrestling fan and he'd just seen a flyer for the show or seen something on like a Facebook group and brought along a load of his friends. Because me and my girlfriend were talking about it after the show, and I was like, I feel like they were just like on some sort of mad stag do where they just
Yeah.
stumbled upon North and just had a great time.
It seems so. We then go to match number 2, which was the stronger than Yorkshire tea in Alexis Falcon. I'll refrain from the Falcon impressions on this episode, at least. She took on Alfiee. Both were accompanied down at ringside with their cuddly managers, and I do mean cuddly, with Dee in Alfie's corner and Alexis Falcon getting the biggest name out there possible to accompany her down to ringside. Steamboat Willie himself, unless Disney are listening, then it's definitely not Steamhouse Willie. Mickey Mouse, with Falcon claiming that Mickey is better than Dee, and the Leeds crowd chanting "shitty little mouse." Alexis then says to Dee, "Why don't we have a wrestling match with the teddy bears?" Again, this could be someone's drugged up dream. Just having people threatening to wrestle with teddy bears. It could happen. But of course, Alexis does use the term, "Does anyone want to see this shitty little mouse have a wrestling match?" And of course, the crowd went, "Yeah." Of course he did. So when when Falcon gets close enough to Alfiee, stiffs her with a forearm, punches her in the head, and on the Patreon commentary, which most of these notes, if not all my notes, have come courtesy of the North Patreon. Don't forget to subscribe. But I'll give you a little plug there, North. Just saying. Tom Campbell tells us on commentary that Falcon has denied us the dream match of the century, Mickey versus Dee. So right, Tom. So right. Falcon then lands a fisherwoman suplex as Dee is thrown by Alfiee to technically make this a 2-on-1 handicap match for a moment. She then rolls her up for a 2. Alexis misses with a kick, but scores with a big knee to the head. Alfiee tries to fight back. Falcon reveling at being in control of the contest and giving it to the Leeds fans, to which they respond with, "You're too old for Disney." And the shock on her face is a sight to behold. Dee Dee interferes again. Has to be easily the most meddling manager in professional wrestling, I feel. Every single match that Alfiee ever has, Dee Dee is somewhere just interfering, but never gets looked at. Falcon uses Dee Dee again to smother her opponent while grabbing Dee Dee and then throws it. Oh, sorry. Dee Dee then... Dee Dee. This is where it all gets confusing. Alfiee grabs Dee Dee, throws it at Alexis again to distract her, which she does, hits a sling blade. Alfiee scores with a rising leg attack in the corner. Front face suplex, with Falcon then returning the favour with a Death Valley driver for a 2 count. Falcon then picks up Dee Dee again. Take a shot, ladies and gentlemen, for every time Dee Dee gets mentioned. And you'll be as sober as those lads were at that show. Not saying they were drunk. Allegedly. We'll say allegedly. I can't get sued then. Alexis then picks up Dee Dee, punches her out of the ring, which draws the biggest iration from the crowd. Alfiee then hits a cutter for a near fall. However, the best thing to come out of Hull since Dean Windass hits a German suplex, quickly picks her foe up, puts her in the ropes, and hits her with, depending how you want to go about this, Falcon's Fury, if you're old school, or Off with her head, if you're new school, to take the win in 7 minutes and 7 seconds. It did not feel 7 minutes and 7 seconds. It felt longer, and I mean that in a good way. Because you can have some matches that will drag the hell, and it has probably gone about 2 minutes. After the match, Alexis Falcon continues the beatdown, ripping the turnbuckle pad off. And again, on a night for the Zebras where they seem to just be beaten all the way through, Ref Katie gets thrown about. We then have Alfiee being thrown into the exposed turnbuckle. And before Falcon can add any more damage to her opponent, we hear the sound of Youngblood and Natalie Sykes running down to ringside to make the save before Alexis Falcon runs behind the curtain to avoid everyone and Natalie Sykes. Not before Sykes grabs Mickey and launches it up the ramp. Poor old Mickey, the innocent bystander in this entire kind of picture. Sykes then raises Alfie's hand to gain the kind of the crowd's favor. And that's kind of how that whole segment finished. What was your view on Falcon and Alfiee and anything to go along with it?
This match was so bizarre and such a fever dream because me and my girlfriend were sat next to each other. Probably about 2 minutes before the end, she went to the toilet and came back, and she says, "Did I miss anything?" And I was sort of like, "I think so, but I can't explain what you've missed."
Yeah.
I was like, "Mickey's been thrown. Alexis Falcon has killed the doll, dead. Natalie Sykes came back, and yeah, it was mental. I mean, it was a good match. I think this is probably only my second time that I've seen Alfiee, but I do like the gimmick that she has,
Hmm.
and Natalie kind of is the same as sort of like we've said with like DeReiss or with Ian Skinner, where they're just really good at getting the crowd involved.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people at the start of this match sort of thought, this is the match with like the least sort of big name value on this show, so I'll go for a quick smoke break or toilet or drinks or whatever. But it was a match that was definitely had its place on the card,
Yeah.
and the right person won, because I think Alexis has been like a big part of North over the last year or so, and she's been having a feud with Natalie, which again has kind of been on and off because of the fact that they both get booked a hell of a lot
Yeah.
in the UK, so you can't always have them in the same place at the same time. But they've kind of picked up on their feud that they left off at the end of last year, which is the same as we'll talk about in a little bit with Rhio and Emersyn, where it was Natalie wasn't advertised for the show, so it was good to see Natalie come back, and hopefully they'll have a continuation of that feud,
Yeah.
maybe going into Thunderstruck or something like that. But yeah, it was a decent match. I think it had its having its second on the card was probably the right choice as well. And yeah, it served its purpose. It wasn't 5-star, let's just say that, but it served its purpose.
Because I mean, if you have a lead show, you know Sykes is going to be on it.
Yeah.
I think there's a good bet when it's in Leeds, there's going to be certain ones you will see. And I was constant after the match, I kept saying to Nick and Mike I was with, if Sykes does not come out, I feel cheated. And as soon as Youngblood played, I thought, there we go. I feel happy now. Because I've said before, I am a massive Sykes fan. Strangely enough, most of my times I've seen Sykes has been at Bridge Pro, being like the very kind of like bratty kind of plays up to like the 21st century liability character that she does.
Yeah.
Plays that character to an absolute T. Superb. Shouting at kids, which is always I just love my kind of like rule breaking wrestlers doing. But seeing Natalie now on Salford shows, I see her on like a few more things. Always love seeing Natalie. One of the best rising stars, I feel.
Yeah.
And as having her rivalry with Alexis, I think possibly it could come to Thunderstruck. I think they may do possibly a match in Leeds, maybe as a build up or lead towards it, which would make a lot of sense, having two kind of Yorkshirites on it. And I say that in a positive light, being a Lancastrian. Because I didn't spit when I said it. We then, if you have the Patreon, we cut to a promo with Hardman Dan as I'm sure he takes off his like wrist tape, but I think he'd already took it off in the ring. So maybe he put another layer on. I don't know. But he says he's at a miss of why he tapped out. That's not what he does. That's not what Hardman Dan does. He went to shake his hand with DeReiss. Does not understand why DeReiss didn't shake his hand. He doesn't think he's respected at North. Then kind of questions himself, asking himself, is it because I'm a loser, because I've lost a couple of matches? I don't know what's going on with me. And just seems very confused, doesn't know what's going on for him. Kind of what we said, it could come down to confidence at the moment for him.
Yeah.
So at the moment, he's in that headspace of, I don't know what's going on with me. I need to figure things out. So we'll see where that takes us down the line. Match number 3, I was going to say, was this the interval main event? Oh, I can't remember. But match number 3 was for the local crowd, so to speak, was Liam Slater, to which I feel like we should all turn our backs when we say Liam Slater, against George Hunter. Student versus coach, with a PPW flavour. The crowd, I've put down the crowd were really up for this one. In fairness, what we had been given in the previous matches had really helped, and the crowd just seemed to get louder and louder as we built up.
Yeah.
But they were still really up for this. Chance for Slater's short shorts, and kept pulling them up further and further. Good thing it's behind a paywall, because any higher it would be on OnlyFans. Things then start out with both trying to get the upper hand on the other. Liam, being the coach, always seemingly having that extra move in his back pocket. Hunter then leaps backwards off Brett's rope when trying to run against Slater. Hits a chop on him, then hits a standing backdrop and standing moonsault. Slater then puts on a absolute masterclass of a technical clinic, really. Hunter tries everything he knows to try and get out of all these holes, as he feels like a pretzel for a lot of this match, which the crowd are very appreciative of. Because we'd seen like a very physical match in the first. The second match was a mix of hard hitting and comedy. This was very much a styles kind of clash of technical against like high flying, if you like. But even Hunter kind of like adopted like the technical side of things. Slater lands some stiff forearms and numerous submissions to Hunter, but George stays in the fight, finding reversals of his own and surprising of that of Slater. We then have a springboard handspring kick off the ropes by Hunter, followed by a shoulder breaker and a back and forth pinning attempt between the two. Liam then dives through the ropes before Hunter thinking, no, that's my gimmick, and then decides to fly over the top rope himself, much to the delight of the crowd, before Liam Slater ends things with a gory special into a pile driver, which looked brutal as hell. Pins Hunter in a time of 10 minutes and 45 seconds. Slater then raises Hunter's hand, and just before he goes, gives him not so much the pat on the back as kind of lifting his shorts up to say, you're almost at my standards, which has the crowd's approval as both men leave. Really, really fun match.
Yeah, this was the best match up to this point, I would say. I still think the best match was to come in the second half for sure, but and the finish this match as well. I think Liam had like it's almost like he put him up into like a razor's edge and then pile driving him. It was a crazy finish. But yeah, it's just really good technical style, which can sometimes be a bit hit or miss on any card, really. But these are two people that are very, very good at what they do. I mean, Liam's one of the best technical wrestlers around, and George is still. I don't know how old George Hunter is, but he's still like ridiculously young, and is very, very good. And I wouldn't be surprised as well if George is someone that very quickly gets signed up somewhere in the next couple of years, because can do pretty much anything. He proved in this match he can do a bit more of the technical style, and he's probably more known for his high flying stuff, but it's not his only sort of bag that he can dip into. He sort of has multiple different styles that he can go into. So yeah, but this up to this point was the best match on the card so far, and it was just they just paced it out really well, because I think sometimes if you go to an indie show that's quite a tight knit venue and you try to put on a 20-minute catch as catch can style match where the fans just want to see crazy stuff, sometimes it can just be like, why are you doing this? Especially if you're not good at it. But thankfully, you have two people who are very good at it, and also a crowd that wanted to see it. So it worked very well on this show, definitely.
Because it's one of those things of when you have one person that's well known for being technical and everyone knows it, the other person being well known for being high flying and kind of fast paced. I think having Slater, who's kind of his coach as well, I think what Slater did well, and also George for that matter, I think they worked out a good way to have him show off his technical ability, but also not have the matches being right. What we're going to do is not have you be all kind of like aerial. We're going to showcase that you have more in your arsenal. You're not just this person that just does like high flying moves and that's just you. There's more about you. So we want to showcase that. And in the long run, it's just going to make him a better wrestler. Because you could arguably make the same case for Leon Slater. A very high flyer. And then as kind of like the years have gone by, he's managed to do different moves, still majority wise high flying, but if needs be, can wrestle like a different style, which I think you need to do if you want to become like a top guy in wherever you want to go. If it's a high, say it's WWE or AEW or TNA or all the other like major ones, you can't just rely on like one style, because if you do, it gets boring. You need to have like a lot of like different things in your arsenal, and just showing like a bit of it as well definitely helped. It felt very much a showcase of Hunter and Slater saying, this is George Hunter, this is what he can do, I'm going to do this. But really it was Slater making Hunter look as good as he could at this point in his career, because he's not the finished article. He's just going to get better and better and better. But where he is right now, he is really good, and he can get even better. We then moved to the North Ultraviolent title between Scotty Rawk, the champion, and Franco Fate. So I have a lot of notes here, which I could probably condense down, but I don't think I did. The crowd is split on this contest, with half chanting for Rawk, half chanting for Franco. Rawk tries to run away from Fate, but he's soon caught by the challenger, who drops him on the hardest part of the ring. Scotty then throws a chair at Franco. I think he'd thrown a drink prior to this.
Yeah, I think he did, yeah.
But I don't think it's shown you on the coverage. The champ then again tries to leave. sees the challenger grabbing him as he kind of like went up the ramp. Franco just grabs him, just going, "Oh no, you don't!" Brings him back, slams him on the stage, kicks him down the ramp, which wasn't the nicest ride. It has to be said. And then Fate goes, "Hang on," cuts it goes into the back, produces a door with barbed wire on it, and half the fans that may have been desperate for the toilet all came running back thinking, "Oh, this is interesting." The fight then stays on the outside, which it seemed to be half and half this contest, half on the outside, half in. The ring then gets filled with all sorts of weaponry. Scotty Rawk thinks it's a Toys R Us that are underneath. Shout out Toys R Us, even though you don't exist anymore. Rawk then grabs his skateboard, which has barbed wire all over it. Franco then lifts him off the top rope, suplexes him on chairs that were stacked sideways. Well, there was. I'm trying to describe. So they had two folded chairs, but lay on their side, but then locked together. So it's almost like an X with the chairs. Gets literally suplexed on that, and the look of agony on Scotty Rawk and him just going fuck has not left my memory. Fate then tries to work something with chairs, but Rawk then nails his opponent with a chair shot or two, drapes his opponent across the two chairs, and hits a moonsault over the... Oh, a moonsault off the ropes for a 2 count. Scotty then cuts some barbed wire off his skateboard, which on Patreon felt like it was about 10 seconds. At the event, felt like it took about 3 minutes for him trying to cut wire. So maybe it's just my memory playing tricks, or they just edited it down. Soon finds himself being clotheslined. Fate then tries to powerbomb and spear the champion through the door, which refuses to budge. And "I am the door" is shouted by quite a lot of people, me being one. Third time does the trick. The door with the barbed wire is then introduced and perched on 2 chairs. Rawk then takes the barbed wire skateboard, sticks it round the neck and throat of Fate, while Fate tries to pull it off. Rawk then bites the thumb of his opponent and low blows him before being thrown into the door, and Rawk hits a 2-footed stomp with the skateboard onto his opponent, who is already tangled in wire. You may have heard this before. Ref Katie, for the second time, or probably third time, as my notes are not accurate, is shoved on this show as Rawk celebrates his victory. A chaotic match in a time of 14 minutes and 57 seconds. Harry.
This was... I can't believe this was 14 minutes. But in a good way, because there was so much going on. There was very little time between spots, but again, in a good way, where it was just like they're going straight at it, and then there's chairs, and then all of a sudden there's doors, and the barbed wire skateboard, which Scotty's used in his last couple of Ultraviolent matches with Lou Nixon.
We had a rest spot with the cutting of the cable.
Yeah, that's true.
That was the only rest spot, I think, in this match.
I think, yeah, and then... Well, I think this is unanimously by pretty much everyone I've spoke to, was the best Ultraviolent match North have probably done, probably ever, if not for a very long time, because of the fact that it was just a lot more violent. It's far from like a death match or anything, but it's for the Ultraviolet. They want it to be like a hardcore title where there are more weapons involved, and it is kind of your match that you do usually just before the interval, because then obviously you have time to clear away the absolute carnage that was at ringside after this match. Because there was a door spot on the outside. Well, there's a spot on the ramp, then there was a door spot, and then there's the other, like you said, the cutting of the barbed wire, which definitely was longer than 10 seconds
Yes.
because Scotty was driving at that for a long time. Then there was obviously the skateboard spot, and then the barbed wire board spot, and then I think the final one, which I'm sure Matthew is probably already editing away for Botchamania, was the final table spot, which third time lucky Scotty went through. But yeah, this was again. It was like this came after a great match that was just before it, so people were like, it's hard to follow a really good match because the crowd are already a little bit like, we'd need to try and calm ourselves down now.
Yeah.
Whereas this was just like a million miles a second, but in the best way possible. And yeah, Scotty retained. So, well, they just announced yesterday, I think it was, that Scotty's going to defend against Clint Margera next week. So that should be a really good match as well. And that plays into the whole who's going to be the first double champion in North, because there's a lot that happened on this show and then the next North show, which we'll talk about a bit later, involving Trent and Gene. But yeah, this was probably at this point probably my new favorite match of the night, which had happened about 3 times already.
which is always fun to have.
Yeah.
To be fair, if the first match is the best and you get about halfway through and you haven't got one that rivals or betters it, then there's a slight problem. We then cut to a promo from Rawk on the Patreon, where he talks about he started out as a misfit when he first started and grew up in the British wrestling scene, but he's now comfortable where he is. Talks about wrestling in talks about he doesn't wrestle in beer garden death matches because he's come to the big leagues in North. I say that just as North have sent a message just telling me that the show from last Saturday is now available. It's almost like North are listening to me. So he speaks about he doesn't wrestle in beer garden death matches. He's come to the big leagues in North to face the hardest men around. Touches on stealing the title from Big Lou Nixon and then beating, quote, his ass around Newcastle. Says North has slept on him far too long and is still your ultra-violent champion. Bollocks out and leaves. To which I think Rawk as this champion at North, I think is a good fit. One, he can wrestle, but he can be very brutal as well when called upon. So I think having him as the ultraviolet champion, I think he will do good things with North, whether he has the title or doesn't, and he's always in the mix. It can only be a good thing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Scotty is very just good at what he does, and that is just being mental. I mean, he's essentially a heel, but he kind of, I mean, he has great matches every time he's been on a North show, so people love to cheer him. So it was kind of 50-50, where it was like Franco was obviously the face in this match, but a lot of people just like Scotty Rawk because he brings that difference that we've probably not had for a while, because Liam Nixon was the champion before, and then I think before that was Ace Matthews.
Yeah.
So and I mean, there hasn't been many champions. I think the only other champion before that was probably Clint. So Scotty just has a whole different dimension that I think they've not had before. Which isn't to say Lou isn't good in these ultraviolet matches, but he's far more suited to an actual death match rather than having to sort of tone it down a bit. Because obviously, I don't think the brewery would take too nicely to light tubes being thrown everywhere.
Really? I was just looking. There have been 5 ultraviolent champions.
Ah, there we go.
Scotty Rawk, Big Lou Nixon, Ace Matthews, Clint Magera. Do you want to take a guess at who is the first ever? It's not a shock. I'll be honest.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I would assume it's probably Rory Coyle.
Yeah, and you would be correct in that assessment. So we'd gone from kind of a action-packed match to arguably the match of the year candidate, as we had Rhio taking on Trent 7. Dear God. I had so many notes on this that I had to cut it down, and it's still massive. So, we get told on commentary that this is their first ever meeting between the two. And after this, you hope there's more than one. So, an even start as Rhio attempts a shoulder block on Trent, who just stands there and goes, "Come on, hit me, hit me." Has numerous attempts at trying to knock him down. Eventually manages to do so. 7 then chops Rhio with. Oh, I felt the chop when he done the first one.
Yeah.
Before he does his all too traditional, I will place you by the ring post, and you will not move at all when I go to do a chop to you. No. Of course, he absolutely chops that ring post with his hand. Bows in front of Jeebus, who comforts him like Mother Teresa would have. I'd use Jeebus and Mother Teresa in the same sentence, but here we are. But it's kind of like what we love from the godfather of British wrestling, I suppose. And we then have chops galore as both of them just trade back and forth. I must have been on a mad moment, because I've then made up a quote that says, "How many chops can a Trent Rhio chop if a Trent Rhio can chop?" Okay, Peter. Okay, Peter. Whatever I was on that night, I'd love to know. That's probably the funniest. I read that and I was laughing to myself. I thought, that's probably the funniest thing you've ever written.
Were you hanging around with those group that were near the stage by any chance?
I think the fumes had come over by that point. Rhio then drops Trent back first on the ring apron. I've put on the outside, but where else would the ring apron be? 3 solid chops and a flurry of forearms from Rhio to 7. Rhio then back suplexes Trent on the ramp. Trent, who just lays in an absolute mess on the floor, much like those lads were probably after a night out at the wrestling. And then Trent makes it back with about at 9.999999999. And I don't mean that in German. Gets back in the ring, chops Rhio. Rhio then chops Trent, who catches Rhio and snaps the fingers. He then hits a lariat for 2. A couple more chops before she tells him to F you, you old bastard. Which his eyes pop out like Popeye used to do with spinach. As that fires up immediately. We get more chops and responds with his own. Rhio flips the bird. 7 then grabs Rio's fingers, snaps them. Yeah, I've put it the wrong way. Rhio snaps Trent's fingers earlier, then 7 snaps Rio's after she flipped in the bird. Then before a slap to the thigh and a short DDT, near falls for both people in the match as the crowd get louder and louder for every near fall attempt. We then have German suplexes and a snap suplex from both as they both hit simultaneous crossbodies. Crowd all kind of, a couple get on their feet and applaud because of what we're seeing. We get a 7-star lariat and a spinning pile driver by Trent to Rhio. Rhio kicks out, which shocks everyone, including Trent. We get a back suplex off the top rope. Rhio then hits a shoulder breaker and gets a 2 count. Rhio then hits her version of a 7-star lariat and gains a 2 count, which she can't believe. Trent goes for the burning hammer. Rio's foot kicks Sandy Beach in the head. And after he hits the move, goes to check on the referee. Rhio then kicks Trent in the balls. Rhio then hits the Rhio driver for the 1-2-3 in a time of 18 minutes and 17 seconds. What a match. Or, as I've put in my in my post-match notes, standing ovation by the majority of the crowd. And then in capital letters, fuck me.
Yeah, I mean, this. Well, it's no surprise. This was my new favorite match of the night.
Yeah.
For the, I think, 4th time out of the 5 matches, and even though the rest of the show is really good, this is the highest of highs because this has been probably the best North match I've ever seen. Which doesn't really surprise me because, I mean, it's Trent Seven and Rhio who are just both amazing. And when this match got announced, this was the match I was most excited for, and rightly so because it was very, very good. And no matter what ticket you paid for in this venue, you didn't pay enough because this was incredible. They start off quite slow, just going into different holds and a few different strikes, and then, like you say, sort of take it to the outside. I think when Trent goes to do the chop with Rhio up against the ring post, there's a few people behind him being like, "Trent, this never works. Why are you doing this?" And he sort of is like, "Look, I've got this. This is the time. It's going to work this time. I promise." And then it does not. And then, back in the ring, they're just going hell for leather, just lariats, suplexes, just everything you'd want from, like, just Rhio and Trent Seven just going back and forth for. I mean, this wouldn't look out of place on WrestleMania or All In, or this was really, really good, and maybe did a slight bit of damage to Rio's character because she's meant to be a heel, but everyone was like, that was fucking unbelievably good, and we can't help but show you respect. But I think obviously the finish is what they try to play into it, where it's like Rhio goes into this match saying, like, I'm going to be Trent Seven, I'm going to prove that I'm the best at North. And she kind of realizes throughout the match that, okay, maybe I'm in a bit of danger here. So that's when the low blow comes into it. And shenanigans, which I'll try not to spoil too much of the next show at the brewery, but she had another match against DeReiss, and let's just say it may or may not have been an almost identical finish. So it's become Rio's new tactic, basically. The low blow for the win is Rio's. She's become what's his name? She's become Richard Holiday, and it's just a signature move. And then I think after this match as well, obviously Emersyn comes to make her entrance, and Emersyn and Rhio have a little bit of a back and forth. There's a wall of yellow shirts who try their best to stop this, but never do, because of course they get thrown everywhere.
To be fair, they got to Rhio and Emersyn just stood on the stage laughing and just like waving at her.
That's true, yeah.
And Rhio trying desperately to kind of like break through, just like let me at her, kind of like Scrappy Doo in a sense.
Yeah.
But that's obviously reserved for Holly Barlow, as we kind of all know now. But the thing that you touched on about the crowd cheering for Rhio, I think half of it is those that respect her. I think the other half is the North. When I say North, I don't mean North Wrestling. The Northern fans, because it's great going on certain other Discords where Rhio appears in the South, and there's been a few people that don't particularly like that. It's always, you can pick out the Northern fans that travel down when Rio's on a card. Rhio could literally like do all these evil things, but you will still have like the Northern fans that have traveled down cheer for Rhio. It's a blessing and a curse for her, I feel. Because I think the Northern fans just want to stick it to the Southern fans, which is, fun in a way. It's like you're the heels in a town. But yes, as you mentioned, Emersyn Jane was in the very next match, as she teamed up with Ronan King to take on Cowboy Way in One Cole Manders and Thomas Shire. Also, as we touched on, Rhio is leaving. Emersyn Jane comes out, needs security to stop Rhio, while Emersyn just smiles at her and waves. Ronan King then comes out in cowboy gear due to Cowboy Way, obviously wearing cowboy stuff. And I put comes out to Magic Mike music. And I hate myself for even knowing that it's from Magic Mike. The crowd greets Manders with Walking in Amanda's Wonderland, as you would very much expect. Ronan King, who on the video to this was saying to Emersyn, "Oh, we should dress up like cowboys and everything because of who we're taking on." Emersyn didn't particularly look enamored with that idea, but she reveals that under her blue wrestling gear, she now has pink chaps on, and is matching with Ronan King in wearing all pink. Thomas Shire. Oh no, I'll just go straight into the match. I thought I'd written something else, but I haven't. Thomas Shire has the better of things early on. King then turns around to avoid a chop. Instead gets spanked by Manders on the arse in his chapless chops, which is a mouthful to say. Cowboy Way then mock Emersyn as they tower over her as she gets tagged into the contest. But she uses her smarts, has them both miscuing and running into each other, as Emersyn Jane uses her speed to her advantage. King then tags himself in, badmouths Jane, leading to Manders and Shire beating up King, which isn't a bad thing. Emersyn then gets tagged back in, kicks both on the outside before getting help to hit a moonsault. Almost kind of like old school, but then does a moonsault off the top rope to take out Cowboy Way. Meteora by Jane to Manders before we then come to the interesting part of this contest, as both Manders and Shire, how can I word this, are ridden by Ronan King and Emersyn Jane, as they hit stereo German suplexes for 2. Both wear their cowboy hats and have Shire taking them both out. This is where Cowboy Way kind of go a bit heelish, so to speak, at this point, as the fun and games are over. Because no, I'll leave that hanging there. King then hits not what I've put, hits a suicide dive. Not the word I've put, but I'm not going to pronounce the word I've put because I don't even know what it says. On the outside, Jane then hits a Spanish fly on Manders, which was beautiful. Manders then hits a lariat to Jane, who was on the top rope. Then a double team from Manders and Shire. Almost like I'm trying to think of the word, like a decapitation move, where you have Shire holding Ronan King, and Manders just drops off the top rope and just lariats him into the ground. Picks up the win in 11 minutes and 52 seconds. After the match, however, Manders raises the arm of Emersyn Jane. And then before we come to your thoughts, we then kind of tie into the previous one where Rhio cuts a promo saying that she's been distracted for many reasons, but she isn't the same woman from 2 years ago that lost to Leon Slater, claiming that beating Trent now puts her at the top of the company, and just leaves while kind of pulling an angry face. But what is your take on the tag match?
Yeah, I thought, again, it's a match that kind of served its purpose. I think it came off the back of the best match of the night, so it was always going to be a bit of a... People are still trying to recover from that. But the match itself was a bit of fun, but also very good wrestling. I think the standout probably was Emersyn Jane, because she was taking a lot of the offense from Manders and Thomas Shire. This is my first time seeing... I think I've seen Manders live before, but I've never seen Shire. I've watched a little bit of him from like WXW and stuff, and he is even bigger in person.
Yeah.
He is an absolute giant of a man. And yeah, he just spent a lot of the match just destroying Emersyn and seeing her sort of fight back. And then, yeah, like you said, some of the spots like the Spanish fly and the moonsault to the outside as well was just really cool. I think Emerson's become like... I mean, she has always been a great wrestler, but she is one of the people you first look to now if she's on a North show, of like, this could be match of the night. And I think we spoke a little beforehand about the show last weekend at the brewery. I think she probably did have the match of the night there with Nico Angelo. And she quite often wrestles the men. It's certainly not something she's not used to, and held her own massively against, obviously, Cowboy Way, or again another couple of people you could say that they probably won't be on the indies for that much longer. I mean, especially Manders, because he's absolutely everywhere all the time. I mean, one week he's in Germany, then he's in the UK, then he's in the States, and like Japan a week after. It's crazy. But yeah, this match itself was really good. I thought the standout was Emersyn, and it kind of built that story again of just her fighting back through a lot of things.
Hmm.
And then you've also got the added side of Ronan sort of being a little bit distracted by the fact that him and Judas are still not on the same page, and he's trying out this new sort of team with Emersyn in this weird vortex of like, ignore the fact that he's a heel and she's a face.
Yeah.
And they're somehow friends and now have matching cowboy pants. Just ignore that.
Yeah.
It's the Brit Rest vortex. It's gonna last 20 minutes and then you can forget about it. But yeah, it was a really good match. And Manders drank my beer a little bit, shook my hand, and it was very, very good.
I mean, at least he didn't do what Judas Gray does later.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris. So, speaking of that, we come to the main event of the evening for the North Championship. Gene Munny defends against Judas Gray. This was one match I was really looking forward to, and it did not disappoint, as we will get into in a tiny bit. However, we had technically two main events on this particular match, because not only did we have a title bout, we had Nathan Black. I don't know why I laughed then. We had Nathan Black come out, as this was supposed to be the last ride, so to speak, of the Woof and Size connection. As Black, who donned a new T-shirt, which I don't know if it was on offer to buy, but I think you would have had some people buy this, and it basically had Size Loaf, as he basically gave a rendition of Meatloaf's version of Bat Out of Hell, with a couple of little tweaks to it, which I didn't realize at the time until I listened to it back, and changed the lyrics to Dog Out of Hell, which I didn't know exactly what he was singing on the day. I do now, though, having watched it on the Patreon. I'm not going to get any bonus points for that, am I? Really? No,
Probably not, but
no,
we can always hope.
A man can try. Anyhow, so he gives the rendition. Gray makes his way to the ring. A massive, actually quite a lot of support for Gray. To which I've been told from a couple of people that have been to North shows that Gray has been getting a lot of positive kind of fan reaction at shows. Seeing as you go to more North shows than me, would that be an accurate description?
Yeah, definitely. Because I think it started pretty organically from the fact that he was just having great matches. I mean, there was obviously a point last year where Ronan missed quite a lot through injury, so Judas was kind of on his own for a while. And yeah, it seemed to happen pretty organically because of the fact that he was having just really great matches with. Well, it seemed to happen more so around the North Big Weekender, where I think he had 3 matches over the course of that weekend, and I think I'm right in saying he lost them all, but they were all very, very good.
I lost to Kid Lycos 2.
Yeah.
And oh, Let me scroll down. Yeah, it lost a freeway against man like DeReiss and Leo Rush.
Yeah.
Then lost to Rampage Brown.
Yeah, that was the one I was thinking
And
of,
lost
Rampage.
to Kid Like Us 2.
Yeah. Which were all great matches. And like I say, it happened fairly organically where people were just like giving him applause, even though he wasn't, he was very flippant with the crowd and very like, oh, just shut up. Like, I don't want your applause. That's not what I'm about. I'm not trying to impress anyone. I'm just trying to win. But they've obviously sort of made it into a story where him and Ronan aren't getting along because Judas has sort of lost that sort of edginess to his character where he's not as put off by shaking people's hands at the end of a match or giving someone props where they deserve it. Whereas Ronan's kind of like, well, what are you doing that for? Like, we've never been about that. We've never been about giving people respect. So that's where their differences have kind of come from. But yeah, Judas is one of the more popular people at North, alongside probably Gene and Nathan Black. So hence why a lot of people were excited for this match.
So let's have a look back at what happened. So we get a very fast start. Actually, before we come to that, as I say, we had a big section of Judas Gray supporters in Project House. The crowd chant for the nipple tape to come off on Gene, which Munny is only too happy to oblige. Munny then puts his hand out to Gray. King distracts the champion with Gray then landing a drop kick, followed by a swanton bomb. Munny then hits a Death Valley driver. I don't even know if the contest has actually started at this point. I haven't put when it happens. We then get a fast start. Munny then wants to shake Gray's hand again and have a kind of code of honor. Ronan King is fuming while he's still on the ring apron. Gray sends him to the back and says, no, I want to make this one-on-one. King does not understand this logic and thinks, no, you need me out here. And Gray tells him to go back. The pace continues with Gray catching Munny with a leg drop on the champion on the outside. I think some things might have been accidentally deleted. Gene then goes to chop Judas. Then, as it looks like he's going to hit an almighty chop in the corner, blows a raspberry on his stomach, as all good champions should do. A springboard codebreaker by Judas gets a 2 count. We then have standing moonsault knees into the body of Munny, a nipple tweak and springboard spear by Gene has the champion coming back. Then lands a throwing suplex, or a release suplex if you prefer. Not that particular throwing suplex that you may have seen. This was a different one. A sit-down powerbomb gets a 2 count. Gray then hits a spinning release slam for 2. A springboard codebreaker is then reversed into a spine buster by Gene. Ronan King then runs down to the ring and is body checked by the incoming Nathan Black, who no one saw. And if you watch the coverage online, it really does not do it justice. How far he travelled, to which all the lads at the back were dancing along still. I think from the DeReiss opening match, and were just going crazy when that happened. We then get the Ainsley Lariat which only draws a 2 count. Munny hits a second release suplex to Gray, but this time sends Judas flying over the top rope into the group of people on the outside. Munny then hits a second Ainsley Lariat to see the champion retain in a time of 15 minutes and 31 seconds. After the contest, we see Nathan Black picking up the belt of Munny in a curious way. Almost like he's kind of seen treasure beyond his wildest dreams. But Black is very quick to then give the title back to Munny. And the woof and size connection are not quite splitting yet, because Black puts the seed in Munny's head of, how about going for the tag team titles, which, if it came off, would see Munny as a double champion, something we have not seen at North Wrestling. That then led to Trent Seven coming out, liking the sound of Double Gold himself, and agrees to a title match at the brewery. So he then kind of says, Bowers, get it booked, tag match at the brewery. We then have a bit of a pose off with both Munny and Black hitting their kind of muscle poses, and the show closes in Leeds. Harris.
Yeah,
there's a lot to unpack.
There is, because especially knowing now what I know of the fact that, do I spoil what happened at the brewery? It wasn't anything.
Just give us a finger. Just give us a recap of what happened.
It wasn't particularly anything crazy, but they did have the tag match. Clint and Trent would retain, so no double championship. But however, Trent did pin Gene Munny. Hence why, if anyone has seen on socials and things, Trent is now going to challenge for Gene's North title in the main event of Let the Cannons Fly 7 on Saturday, which is good.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of very interesting things going on, because Clint did the move that effectively had the match won, and he carried the sort of latter part of that match. But Trent was the one who rolled in, got the 3, and he kind of takes the plaudits, which left Clint kind of feeling like, oh, well, I kind of did all the work there. You kind of just took the pin, so I'm not very happy about that. And also, there's still the thing of Nathan Black being very much like, I like the look of that North title. I might go for that at some point. So, yeah, it's kind of, they've built it really well to the point where there's now 4 people who justifiably have a reason to be either champion or challenging for the title. But yeah, off the back of this match, I mean, going into this, I felt like it's a lot better than the last main event, because Gene was against Rampage, and it was just kind of like, Rampage is the hometown guy, but we know fine well Rampage is not winning that belt. Even though I love Rampage, it made no sense. No. Gene had just fairly won the title fairly recently at Thunderstruck. He hadn't defended it that many times, and it just didn't feel like Rampage was the person to take it off him. Even though that was still a good match, it just felt like there was zero chance Rampage was winning. I still felt like in this match, I was still 90% sure Gene was going to retain, but they made me feel a couple of times in this match that, hang on, Judas might actually pull something out here. And they've built Judas enough, they've built him up enough to have him win the title, theoretically. Like, it wouldn't be an insane shock if they put the belt on Judas. I still think they're still trying to play into this Judas Ronan storyline, which again might come to a head at Thunderstruck probably. But yeah, there was a couple of near falls in this match, especially with the first Ainsley Lariat, where you thought like this is over, and then Judas will hit something crazy, and you think, oh my god, Judas could actually win, which is how you tell a really good wrestling match.
Yeah.
You go into a match thinking this is nailed on what's going to happen, and then gradually throughout it's like, actually this could go either way. But yeah, Gene won. Then we had, like you say, Nathan Black kind of gets it in his head of being like, this was supposed to be our last time together. This was our, I was going to do the whole sing your theme song, and that's our swan song. But he says, I'm not ready to pack this up yet. Let's go for the tag titles, which ended up not being successful fairly. But, and also, I think Nathan Black might have got a concussion in that match. There was a very awkward point at the brewery where there was medics involved, which I hope Nathan Black's fine. But yeah, this tag match though in Leeds was tag match. What am I talking about? This main event in Leeds was very good, and so many moving parts. Like I say, with Judas Gray being sent to the back, and with Nathan Black sending Ronan King into the atmosphere somewhere, which was mental. I actually thought it was one of the lads who just got carried away and sent Ronan King flying, but no, it was Nathan Black.
Well, I will say this. It was the 28th, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
He wrestled the very next night.
Oh, thank God. Oh, well.
I
clearly wasn't that bad then.
And if you want to slightly break this point up and say this is the non-North wrestling section, ironically, he faced Gene Munny.
Actually, yeah, what am I talking about? I'm sure I turned on Triller TV and he was wrestling Gene, and they were acting like they'd never known each other, which is just part of Brit Rest.
Yeah, to be fair, I do enjoy shows where it's just like, I don't know you. It's like it's almost like a magician's trick when they say, "Can you come up on stage and shake the hands?" We have never met one another, have we? Pick a card.
Yeah, and on that Progress show, Nathan Black was very much back to being a heel, back to insulting every single person in the crowd. But they're telling the story really well in North of like, he's a baby face, but no one really believes he's a baby face. It's like any second now, that's everyone in the crowd is thinking sort of like any second now that he's going to turn on Gene, which is, you know, they've got us in their palm of their hands, which is the best feeling really, because
really,
100%.
You don't want to make it too obvious, but if it's too obvious, it's boring. But if you just like almost tease and just go, well, he might do this, or we might go that way, you're immediately the phrase they're playing checkers and I'm playing chess, or the vice versa, whichever way you want to play it, unless you're playing chess and they're playing checkers, whichever way. Kind of that idea works for how you go about it, which is what you want. Even the smartest kind of fans enjoy not really knowing, which I think there's a lot now that really just we don't want to know a lot. We enjoy being surprised, which is definitely one thing I enjoy. So that's why I avoid most things. So I don't want to know what's going to happen. I want to see it play out in front of me, not what someone's telling me. Of course, that means we can fantasy book, which is always great. And sometimes we think we're better than some promotions. I still harbour thoughts of Future Shock a couple of years ago, where they went 99% of my idea, and I still think my idea was better. But I digress. If you have I mean, you may not, but if you have the results of Saturday, or if you can remember any of the results, you can give a quick recap before we all shuttle off to.
I will try my best. I believe we started with. Who started this show? This is going really well, isn't it?
Oh, it's all right. I can edit this.
We had a great match. If only I can remember who was in the match.
So great.
Was it Emersyn and Nico?
Well,
No.
you did mention them.
They did have a match, but I think it was in the second half. I know what the first match was. It was also very good. It was Jay Joshua and Daz Black, who are just both very, very good and absolutely battered each other. It was Jay Joshua who got the win, which I don't think is a massive surprise because he's wins everywhere he goes lately, and rightly so. He's very, very good. He's another name that is everywhere at the moment. I think the next match was Natalie Sykes and
Aluna.
Yeah, this is my first
card in front of me.
Oh, there we go. Thank God, save me. But yeah, Natalie Sykes and Aluna. This was okay. I think the only thing that was lacking was probably the fact that there wasn't much of a story going on, because essentially because Alexis Falcon wasn't there, hence why they couldn't build to this, what feels like it's going to happen at Thunderstruck, Natalie Sykes and Alexis Falcon. But again, a really good match. Natalie went over as far as I remember. To build.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think I heard you on.
Which it was a match where I don't remember a lot of what happened. Similar to the last Leeds show, where I think Natalie wrestled Holly Barlow in the opening match, and it was like
we talked about this
yes
quite a lot, and because we said Holly is if you want to talk about weird vortexes, anyone kind of like outside North, if you said Sykes and Barlow, and went, who's the fan favourite in this match? I would say about 99.9% would say Holly.
Yeah.
So to have Holly as the rule breaker, so to speak, in this contest, I don't think helped the crowd. I think a lot expected Holly to be kind of, well, Holly's always kind of like bubbly and jokey, but it felt a bit off.
I'm back.
Back.
What happened there?
I think your connection went temporarily.
Oh God.
I think the first time was
when you live where I live, which is the middle of nowhere.
It's not Sunderland, is it?
Oh no, thankfully not.
Thought I'd have to get that in there. But yes, I'll kind of very quickly say what I just said a second ago. When we talked about Sykes and Barlow being very much like the fan favourite who everyone loves, Sykes being the person that everyone kind of hates. And then when you come to North, it was the flip. This is very weird. And I know a couple of people that found it very confusing.
Yeah, that definitely came across on the show. Even though, for me, I mainly just go to North shows, so it was kind of like I'd seen Holly I don't think I'd ever seen Holly live, but I knew like her gimmick with Lana Austin.
Uh.
But for me, it's like, well, I've only seen Natalie as like a face, so this
Yeah.
just felt like normal to me. But to a lot of the other people in the room who weren't regular
Yeah.
people at North, it was like, why are they trying to tell this story of Natalie as a face? And well, essentially, both of them as faces, but Lana is kind of the heel on the outside. It was a bit clunky.
Because it was the thing of Holly was trying to become like a heel, and Lana
Yeah,
was saying, "This is what you do. This is what you do." And I did say at the time. Actually, I say I did say at the time. I didn't say at the time because it never got recorded. It was probably the most off match on that card, and I think it was the first match that started it.
yeah, I think it was the opener. Yeah,
And I think that match kind of went with how the show went. It never really got going
yeah,
from that point onwards. You'd have like it went up in like peaks and troughs, so to speak, but it just started a bit funny. But obviously, the Leeds crowd is well, you do get a lot of fans from North travel down because, as we know in football, if you're from the northeast, you're a hearty bunch up there, and will travel anywhere if you can do. But even so, that room didn't feel very much like the last show and the first show.
yeah,
It felt a very mixed crowd, which, uh, again, it's just one of those times where shows just don't come off how you like it to do. But saying that, what matches have we got left? We have 3 matches left. Or do we? No, we don't. We have 4. I'll start from the top. Liam Slater and Kemper.
yeah. This was odd because Kemper just came back, and Liam seems to have gotten a little bit more kind of. I feel like his character's become like he's more. How do I put this? More up his own arse than he usually is. He's very much like, yeah, I'm back. Like I'm no longer depressed like he was last year because they were trying to tell the story of like the him and Leon were together and they were the despite there being no relation, they were like, the title hasn't seen a Slater hand since for the last 3 years, and we're gonna keep it forever. And then obviously they have a bit of a falling out at Thunderstruck. Leon loses the title, goes off to TNA, and Liam's kind of left by himself, and he's just sad and depressed. And eventually, you know, Eve Bateman, his partner, kind of snaps him out of it. They have a match, and that sort of brings him back to life eventually after months of just being sad Liam with his head down. And now, yeah, he's had a couple of wins towards the back end of last year and the start of this year. I think the plan was to get the postmodern Sick Boys back together, which was himself and Rory Coyle. But Rory, I think, has had like a few health problems, so he's kind of taken a step back. And I mean, obviously, he does a lot of stuff behind the scenes at North as it is, and has was announced on this show that he's now doing commentary uh, for the foreseeable future, I believe. So he's now one of the new full-time commentators. So Liam's kind of in this weird position where they probably planned to do more with Liam and Rory, but
Yeah.
it seems to be like, okay, we've had to think of something else. So Liam's sort of, it feels like gone back to his sort of older gimmick of like, I'm I'm feeling a lot more confident about myself, and I'm feeling like I can pretty much beat anyone at this point. So he kind of calls out Kemper. They go back and forth on social media and stuff. They have this match, and it ends fairly quickly because Liam, I, I couldn't for the life of me know what it's called, but does a very fancy technical roll up on Kemper to get the win after what could have been possibly less than 3 or 4 minutes. It was quite strange. It kind of sucked the air out of the room because people were very excited to see Kemper, and it didn't last very long. But it's kind of like Liam's become this sort of smarmy, like I'm better than everyone else type
Yeah.
of like I'm so technically good that I can beat anyone.
Mm.
So it's like he's gone from depressed to confident to arrogant, which and it's kind of just gone from complete rock bottom to like I am superior to everybody now, and I'm gonna take back over North. So yeah, that was interesting, but it fell a bit flat in the venue because it never really got going, and everyone kind of looked around as if to be like, "Oh, been waiting for Kemper for ages, and now it's over."
You have him for a brief time.
Yeah,
That's it. The only thing that I had in my head when he said Slaters was just, I think he said Slater boys at one time. It just made me think of Avril Lavigne. I was going to try and work in a lyric, but I haven't got the time or the energy. What match haven't we? Oh, we spoke about Rhio.
yeah.
Beating.
Again, same kind of finish to what we saw at Leeds, where great back and forth, but then there's a ref distraction, low blow. Rio gets the win, and then I believe Emersyn's match was next with Nico Angelo, so they have another run in, where I believe Rio's music starts to play. Um, in fact, yeah, Emersyn's match was first, then Rio, I believe, so the other way around. Um, Rio's music plays, Emersyn's kind of waiting for her, and then Rio comes from behind and attacks her, and they have a bit of back and forth until the swarm of yellow bees appears. The yellow shirts come to separate them. So yeah, kind of just where they left off in Leeds, where it's just the why Bowers just doesn't book them in a match. I don't know.
To tease you all.
That's very true.
Tease
Yes,
you
I forget kayfabe. It's just like surely you just book a match, and then I forget. Oh yeah, it's wrestling.
Yes.
We can't always just get what we want right there and then.
No.
What else happened on this show? There was then there was a surprise match because we were about to go into the main event, and Tom Campbell was like, "This is the main event of the evening," or that's what I would have said if there wasn't a surprise match. So then everyone's very excited. Rampage comes out, and at this point, I think a lot of people started to realize that it's probably someone Rampage knows pretty well, that's been gone for a while, has been in Japan. We haven't seen him for a while. And thankfully it was, to a massive pop, Will Cruz back in North. Uh, and they've obviously been teaming for a long time in North as well. And just battered the absolute hell out of each other. Because that's just what they do. So, yeah, surprise match. And Will Cruz got the win. And it was just exactly what you'd expect. Thankfully, me and my girlfriend was sat sort of by the ring post, and when Rampage and Will Cruz made their entrance, I thought, this is great because I'm gonna have a much better view after this match because the ring will have moved about 5 inches, and it did. So thank you to Rampage and Will Cruz.
Just for you. That's all it was.
Exactly. And then the main event we spoke about was obviously the tag titles, the sort of double jeopardy of seeing if Gene can become a double champion, which he couldn't. Some of this match I missed because it went out into sort of the concourse area, and as they tend to do, whenever Trent and Clint are in a match, it just ends up everywhere. So make sure you're holding your beers if you've got any. Um,
In Newcastle.
I know it's crazy. Make sure you're holding your Pepsi Maxes. Let's just say. But yeah,
That'd be me.
there was a lot of crazy spots in this one. A lot of very brutal chair spots, mainly on Clint Margera, because that man seems to just disintegrate every time he's in a North ring. They just put him through absolute hell. But he came back from so much beatdown, eventually got a huge move on Gene from the top. And then Trent just rolled in, got the pin, and acted like it was all him. And I believe he also picked up the North title, very much like Nathan Black did, and took a very long look at it. They then went up onto the stage, and Clint and Trent kind of have a little back and forth where they're a bit like, well, Clint's very much like, well, I kind of did all the hard work there, and you just kind of stole the pin, but I'll sort of let you off. I mean, we are brothers.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of tension there. And then Nathan Black and Gene have this moment where they sort of start to sort of push and shove each other because they've lost the match. They're not very happy about it, but they end up hugging and kind of ending on the same page. But again, they tease the Nathan Black, Gene Munny fallout, but they're just going to keep on teasing us.
Well,
But then, yeah, on social media afterwards, we then got Trent saying, look, I've pinned the champion, so I want the next shot at the title.
Mm.
And Clint said, well, I want to be double champion first, so I'm going to challenge Scotty Rawk for the Ultraviolet. So some interesting stuff going into the Leeds, where it's two people could potentially be double champion.
it's if you don't have your tickets for Leeds, I would suggest you book them maybe at the end of next week. Just let me book mine first, if you can. Then go out and buy your tickets. Before we go, any other business, which is basically, do you want to plug anything?
Well, I've got my Instagram, which is very confusing because I couldn't get All Things North. So it is _ All Things North _ for anyone on Instagram. My YouTube is the same _ All Things North _ and my other YouTube channel, which is at EMPIREPRO, where I do a lot of wrestling video essays on random stuff, usually Joshi stuff or 90s old Japan. So if anyone's interested in that, that's where I do most of my stuff.
And for those, I will put that on the screen, and I will also put it in the links below. For me, I like to keep things as basic as I can do. BraddersGraps on Blue Sky and YouTube. If you're already on this, hello. If you're on Twitter or X, it's BraddersGraps. Same as it is on Instagram, I believe. Which amazes me. Yes, BraddersGraps on Instagram. Considering I use Instagram more than anything, I can never remember my actual username, which isn't particularly that helpful. So coming up, we are hoping to do a look back at Future Shock's past show, which was God, don't do this to me. It was sorry, I'll just cut this bit. There you go. So as I remember, it was Test of the Faithful doubleheader at the MMU in Manchester. Was a really interesting show, to put it one way. We will also have a look at Catch, as they started their Enigma series at their residency currently at the Red Arch in Manchester, as we will review show 1 and 2, because I believe at the time of recording. Episode 2 is going to come out on Patreon. Yes, it is. Thank you for watching or listening. My thank you to Harry for actually managing to record a show for once. He says, but we have not actually published this yet, so let's hope it makes recording, eh? I'm sure when I'm down in Leeds, I'll catch up with you at least.
Yeah.
So that'll be nice. Now just to wait traffic and I can't get a ticket. But for now, at least, thank you for watching, listening to the podcast. Follow all Harry's links as well if you would kindly like to. I cannot string a sentence together. But there must be gin in this strawberry and kiwi water I'm having. But for now, at least, goodbye and